I'm Sienna.
Oh no, I missed it. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Sienna.
And I'm Madison.
And you're listening. Hey, I'm Sienna.
And I'm Madison.
I'm yelling at them.
Really embarrassing. Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Sienna.
And I'm Madison.
And you're listening to the Just a Person podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Just a Person podcast, a show that explores life's highs, lows, and in-betweens. I'm Madison, and today we're talking to Reese. Reese opens up about bullying, the apprehension of starting a new school, and how social media has affected her mental health and her relationships. Thanks for listening, and enjoy. Hey, guys.
Hey. Hi.
Reese, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome on, Reese.
Thanks, guys.
I have this hat, as you can see, and I'm going to pull a question out of it, and we're all going to answer it. All right?
Got it.
What is something most people hate, but you love?
Okay, I can go first with this one because I did kind of think about this yesterday when we were writing the questions, and I said it would be my favorite band, the Front Bottoms. I'll get like roasted for liking them. People think they're just bad, can't sing, and they're literally my favorite band ever. So I would say that's mine.
I feel like mine is stupid. One of my favorite vegetables are Brussels sprouts, and nobody likes them. They're so underrated.
I feel like that's a good answer.
And beets.
Okay, love it. Madison?
I guess I don't know if this is something that I love, but I think it's something a lot of people hate. A lot of people hate like waiting around, like waiting in a line. And I don't really mind that because I know I'll get to the front of the line. I'm fine with it. I'm having a good time in the line. You can make anything fun if you try.
Okay, that's true. I like that. If you know how to entertain yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
So basically, Reese, if you just want to tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Reese, and I'm 15, and I'm from Michigan. And yeah, I'm a sophomore in high school. I do sports, I go to school, that sort of thing. Just your average girl. Sienna's my older sister.
Yes, Reese is the youngest, so it's a little fun fact. So I kind of want to talk to you about, like, you mentioned you're in high school, obviously, and why originally you did switch schools. What year was that? 8th grade? You switched going into 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about kind of why you decided to switch schools.
Basically, throughout like middle school, I would say that's when, girls can be kind of mean. And so there's just a lot of that in my friend group at my old school, and just like drama in general. It was just not the greatest place for me to be. So I just wanted to try something new.
Yeah, obviously I'm your sister, so I saw a lot of it and just kind of how it obviously is hard when you're being singled out or anything like that, especially when you're in middle school.
And like our school was pretty small. We went to a private school, so everybody knows everybody, and whoever you're friends with, it's not like a 1,000 kids in your grade where if you lose your friends, you can go and make new friends. You have 25 kids in your class and that's it. So once I kind of got my friends started disliking me and whatnot, there wasn't really anyone else for me to go be friends with.
Did you have any friends from there that were in your friend group, but they weren't being like that to you? Or was it everyone just decided to turn on you?
Everyone was always mad at someone. It was constant. So I wouldn't be everyone was always just mad at me. There was always someone people were mad at over the smallest things, over a boy, over, something stupid. I never figured out why they got mad at me. I just know I didn't have any other close friends that weren't in my friend group. And there was one girl in my friend group that I was still close with after everyone got mad at me. And then I had no idea what happened. They just all I would see on social media, they were all hanging out without me, which we never did. We were always all together. So it was just kind of weird. I was like, what's going on, guys? That was during a winter break. So when we went back to school, it was kind of awkward. They weren't talking to me and stuff. And I just never really talked to them again. It was out of nowhere, I felt like.
Yeah. And I guess it's these were Reese's friends from kindergarten. So from kindergarten to 8th grade, they had kind of formed their little friend group. And, up until that point, I don't think you ever really had any rifts with any of your friends. These were genuine friends, like a very good friendships. And then suddenly, and like how you kind of talked about, it's a small school. So not only did you like kind of lose all of your friends overnight, but then it's awkward. You're sitting with one other person at lunch. You're no longer with them. You don't have them to talk to in class. Just like the isolation and just feeling weird at school.
Yeah, I just like didn't know what to do.
Another thing I remember was when how you kind of said you had that one friend, days when she would miss school, the amount of stress that would cause, because like we said, that was the one person you sat with at lunch, that was one person you had to talk to. And then if she's not there, it's suddenly like, I mean, I feel like being in middle school and your one friend is there, like, who am I going to sit with at lunch? That's the worst feeling.
Yeah, I would freak out. I remember, anytime she wasn't at school, I would literally have an anxiety attack and call mom and be like, you need to pick me up for lunch. And she would usually just like take me to Wendy's or something. But there were some days she couldn't come and get me and I would just be like freaking out. I remember one time I pretended I was sick and like stayed in the office so I didn't have to go.
And I remember sometimes the night before school, you would know she wasn't going for whatever reason. And me and you would kind of talk about it and just like the complete like stress that you had. Like, what am I going to do?
I would sit with the boys sometimes. I had no choice. And it was like awkward because they would all make fun of you. Like, oh, like you have no one to sit with. You know what I mean?
You probably try to laugh it off. But
yeah, but it was still awkward seeing all like those girls that hate you, like staring you down while you sit with the guys.
So after your winter break, when things kind of started to get weird with everybody, how long did it take from that until you decided to move schools?
Till the end of the school year. At first, I was kind of thinking it would blow over because that happened in our friend group before. Like everyone was mad at one girl and like she sat with someone else. And then next thing you know, like everyone was mad at a different girl and she sat with whoever. Like I wasn't really thinking it was going to be this long-term change in our friend group and they would never talk to me again. Like I had no idea until over a month went by and I was like, we're obviously not going to be friends again. Like I remember my parents kept saying, oh, like you guys will work it out. After a little while, I was kind of came to the realization that wasn't going to happen. And that's when I was like, I want to change schools.
When you decided to move schools, did you get to pick your school?
Yeah, my parents would probably let me go almost anywhere if I like really wanted to go there. I know like they didn't want me to switch really, but if I wanted to go to, you know, any school nearby, as long as it was a good school, they would have let me go.
I also switched schools, and the public school by us is a pretty good school. And then there's also other private schools. So I feel like most of the school options by us are good. So do you kind of want to talk about like when you first started your new school, like what that was like? Because you didn't know anybody when you first picked that school, did you?
Also, yeah, what made you pick your new school?
Basically, I shadowed at a couple schools and I really liked the school that I go to now. It was like my favorite one. And I knew one kid from that school, but he was in the grade above me. And he kept telling me like it was a really good school. And he knew like girls in my grade I would be friends with. So he kind of sent me some of their social media, their Snapchat, stuff like that. And I started talking to them and I really liked them. And that's when I was kind of like, these girls seem like fun and like nice. And I shadowed there and I had a lot of fun that day. So that was just kind of how I made my decision, I guess.
Do you kind of want to talk about like your first day of school and just like what it was like?
I was really nervous. And I was lucky because I did kind of know some people. I wasn't friends with anyone. I knew who they were. They knew who I was. So I knew like who to look for, kind of a familiar face. But it was definitely weird because in some ways I was lucky because I went right into a friend group, but it was weird. They were all like really close and I was super shy and like super nervous my first day, which I was not used of because at my old school, I was one of the loudest people in my class. Like my best friends and I had known each other since kindergarten. I'd known everybody my whole life. I never went to school quiet or like nervous to talk. And then all of a sudden, anything I said, I was like scared to say it or like just sitting there in silence at lunch because I was scared to talk. So it was definitely weird. I felt like an outsider for sure. In the first day, I was definitely scared. I had no idea where I'm gonna go. What if they don't like me? Like, what if I go to say hi to them and they like don't remember me or like they don't talk to me? Then who am I gonna talk to? I was just freaking out my first, probably for like a month, honestly.
knowing you, you are such like a social person. You're funny, you like to joke, you like to laugh. I feel like me and you are similar in that when we meet new people, we get really scared and shy, and I never know what to say. So I tend to be kind of quiet when I first meet new people. And I feel like you kind of also had that. And I relate to what you said about like being at the lunch table and they're all talking. And normally you'd be joining in and making jokes, but it's almost like intimidating and you don't know what to say. So you just sit there quietly and you don't really get to show like your personality and who you are. I guess how long did it take you before you kind of felt comfortable to do that?
I remember thinking it would be like a week and I would be best friends with everyone, but that was definitely not the case for me. I think because I did have a hard time like showing my personality because it was so weird. I had never been new before. Like I had just never had to worry about that I wasn't talking or that I was saying something weird. Like that had never even crossed my mind at my old school. Like I was so close with everyone. It came naturally. So I was just so like shocked that I never thought I would be considered a shy person, I guess, because I never been put in a situation where I didn't know anyone. So when I kind of realized like how shy I was, it took me a while to like snap out of that and start like really showing my personality, especially with, you know, the girls in my friend group that I didn't see as much. I would say there was a couple girls I got close with pretty quickly because I had all my classes with them and they were really talkative, so I could talk to them. But then if a different girl like talked to me, I was not as talkative with them.
I mean, even when I switched schools, I would just be sitting there. I'd be like, oh my gosh, Sienna, like talk, like say something. You know, I would just sit there and I wouldn't say anything.
That's exactly what I would do.
It's so weird. I feel like that isn't like us. And I think it's especially hard when everybody's already friends. You know, I think that makes it a bit harder.
That's exactly how I felt. It's like saying like just talk or like just say something when we would all hang out as a group at someone's house. I would like prepare myself beforehand and be like, okay, like just act normal. Like you don't have to be like freaking out. And then the whole time I would just be like sitting there and talking to like the one girl next to me. And like anytime we were having a group talk, I would just be completely silent, even though I was already friends with all of these people. Like I wasn't new anymore. I'd been at that school for 6 months. Like everybody knew me. I was a part of their friend group now. And even when we would hang out like all together, I would still just get like so nervous. I felt like I just couldn't talk. I couldn't get the right words out, that sort of thing.
Do you think there's anything that they could have done differently to make you feel more comfortable, or is it just something you had to work through on your own?
I think honestly, it was just me. All of those girls that I was friends with were super nice, and I was close with all of them on a like one-on-one sort of thing. But I think just being in a group setting, I just like would get so uncomfortable. And I guess like with the guys there, sometimes that would make me nervous because I felt like I never really talked to them because, you know, I didn't care to like become like BFFs with them. But I felt weird like talking with all the girls in front of them because I felt kind of like they might be judging me or like they thought I was like quiet. So if I said something loud or weird, I was already like categorized as like quiet. So it would be out of the ordinary. And like, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't mess around and be like loud and joking like those other girls because they would be like, what the heck, like she's so quiet, she's acting so like out of how she normally acts. So I would always be worried about that. And I felt like I was kind of like categorized by them, and like people in the school that I wasn't close with kind of categorized me as like she was in that front group but she's the quiet one. So that's what would kind of make me nervous to be like talkative or like loud in front of people.
Do you really think they categorized you, or do you think you kind of put that on yourself? Like, do you think had you just started talking, people would have been like, oh my goodness, like, what is she doing? Or do you think that was more kind of like you put that on your own? Like, you know what I mean?
I think like had I been talkative from the beginning, it wouldn't have been a big deal, obviously. But I think since I was so nervous and was like quiet for so long. Once I wanted to talk, I felt like it was already too late, and I don't think anyone would have been like, oh my God, like she's so crazy, why is this girl talking? But I do think they would have, the ones that didn't know me as well would have kind of thought something of it. I mean, I know it would have been fine because now I talk in those groups all the time, so, and nobody thinks anything of it because I'm not quiet around them anymore. But at the time, like the first couple times, it would have been weird. And
I think it's hard too because you came from a place where like you were so nervous about your friends because they were giving you so much anxiety about, are you going to say something to make them mad today? Are they going to talk to you today? So then you get to a new place and you're like, I don't know what to do. I just kind of have to wait and see. And then you feel like you've already put yourself in a box at the new place. So I think that's kind of tricky to navigate.
Yeah, that was hard for sure. Like just coming from somewhere where you're like walking on eggshells all the time and then like trying to come out of your box.
And I feel like kind of now you are, I would say, like pretty good at talking to anyone, right? You would say?
I mean, I think I can be, but I still get like nervous. Like even today, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? Like, what are they going to ask me? I don't know. What if I can't explain something? Like, and it's just you and my sister and Madison, who I've met multiple times. So
earlier you were talking about how your friends at your old school, like you found out that they were hanging out without you on social media. I think for Sienna and I, social media was kind of in high school. It was like, it was there and people used it, but it didn't really matter that much. It was just kind of for fun. But I feel like today it's such a big part of who you are and how people perceive you, especially in high school. How big of a role do you think that plays just in your friendships?
Oh, like a huge role. I feel like I know, like for me, social media has been in my life since like almost as long as I can remember. Every little thing can be like twisted, I guess, on social media. Like I remember overthinking over the smallest things, like someone left me on red or like they responded with K instead of like okay, and like the stupidest smallest things you can interpret like completely wrong. And definitely seeing people hang out without me like on social media, that was a big reason why I changed schools, because that's how I found out they like weren't inviting me places and like I was being left out and stuff.
Seeing it like going on Snapchat and like watching people's stories and they're all posting, they're all together and you're just sitting at home, and it has to really suck. And I feel like when I was younger, that wasn't really a thing. And now every time they're without you, they're posting and you just have to see that while you're at home doing nothing. And that definitely has to be hard.
What do you think is the most popular social media among people your age?
I would say either Snapchat or TikTok.
Not Instagram?
I think Instagram is popular, but I think less and less people are like using it as much. But I think Snapchat is huge, like around my age. That's how we communicate with each other. Like I feel like your age, people text on iMessage, which I mean, we do sometimes, but I feel like 99% of the time, if my friends like need to reach me, they Snapchat me.
What one do you think stresses you out the most?
They all stress me out, honestly. Probably Snapchat and TikTok, I would say.
We're only like 7 years apart, 6 or 7 years. And I feel like a lot of people, maybe in the ages between us, stress out a lot about Instagram. Is that something that you worry about or not really?
I would say I did worry about that more in like middle school. I still definitely like take Instagram pictures, but I don't do it as much because I'm like worried about making it look like perfect or anything. But I just really like posting and like editing pictures and stuff, so it doesn't stress me out as much. But I guess if I was in a different position where like I was getting like no likes and everybody else was getting like a bunch of likes and I felt like my pictures weren't as good, like I would definitely get stressed out about that. But it just depends, I feel like.
One thing with Instagram that I personally don't love is the whole likes. And I feel like especially when you're younger, I feel like now, you know what I mean, I'm done with college, it doesn't really matter, but like middle school, high school, is the amount of likes you get. I feel like it almost kind of seems like a popularity contest.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you can definitely tell, I guess, like most people would say, like you can tell who's popular based off of their Instagram.
Yeah, I feel like that is the way that people look at it and think, which to me it seems so, I don't want to say stupid, but kind of just stupid. I feel like the fact that Instagram, the amount of Instagram likes, in a sense, defines somebody's worth is just so bizarre. A lot of kids really do judge how much somebody is worth based on the amount of likes. And people judge themselves based on that too. Say you post and you're only getting 10, 20 likes, that has to really hurt a lot of people's self-esteem when you see other people posting getting 100. And so that's one feature, I guess, that I really, especially, I feel like that's really bad for people's mental health.
When I last came to your house, we were talking about this because on my Instagram for at least a year, maybe 2, I haven't been able to see that at all. So when I look at Instagram and let's say I look at your picture that you posted, I can't see how many people liked it. And mine's been like that for a while, but I guess not everybody's is. But I think for me, not that I don't really care that much about social media to begin with, but like since I can't see, I don't really care. I just look at the picture and then I keep on moving.
Yeah, I think that's something Instagram is trying to like roll out, is just showing the photo. And then if you click on the likes, you can see the names, but there's no number count, which I think that's really beneficial, especially for kids' mental health. Maybe people who are getting thousands of likes won't be happy about it, but I think for the majority of like normal everyday people, it will help a lot. And I feel like that's who the platform is made for. It's not necessarily made for the Instagram models. It's made for everyday people. What do you think about that, Reese?
I think that's definitely true because it was true for me in middle school. I remember being so stressed out when I was changing schools because my old school, like me and my friends all got around the same amount of likes. And then at my new school, the girls I was friends with were getting like double what I got. And I remember I was like so stressed out. I was like, I need to like get more likes so that I'm at like the same as everybody else. And like, I didn't know how to get more. And I was just like freaking out over that when I was in like 7th grade. So I feel like that's definitely true.
I know you're 12 years old, stressed out about Instagram likes. That has nothing to do with who you are as a person. Like you're perfectly great as a person as you are, no matter if you get 1 no likes or 10,000. It means nothing. But the fact that, you know, like I remember you were stressed out about it. If you post a picture, and I feel like anybody's like that and it doesn't get that many likes, it's hard to like just not care.
Yeah, I used to delete them like if they didn't get the amount I usually get. And I don't delete them anymore, but like before, even when I would still get like a lot of likes, I would be like, it's still not like as much as normal. So I need to delete it.
For example, I might get maybe 100 likes and I don't care. I'm happy with that. But with you would get way more than it. You would be getting, 500, 600 likes. And you would be like, oh, that's not, you would still feel like that wasn't good enough. And in my head, I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's amazing. You know what I mean? And Reese is over here like, oh my goodness, like, you know, only 500 people. It's almost like it's never enough.
I feel like there's always the next step up. You get 500 and then one post gets 600 and then anything that gets 500, like you have to delete. And then you're starting to get 800 and then anything that gets 600 is like not good enough anymore. And it just keeps like growing and like you're always going to be stressed out trying to like get to the next best thing.
I feel like another thing we kind of talked about before getting on here was just social media and mental health in general. Is there anything that you want to talk about, like with your experience with that?
Yeah, I think like social media was one of the biggest things that affected my mental health in like so many ways. Like it literally shapes your life. Like everything you do, I feel like revolves around social media. Like it was probably, if I hadn't had social media, I genuinely think I would have been a lot happier growing up and like even now. But it's just such like a norm now to have it. If you didn't have social media now, I feel like I would be like, what am I going to do without it? Like, I feel like it's almost too late to like delete everything and like live without a phone. But sometimes when I think about it, I do think like it would have been better had I like not had a phone or like not had at least like social media apps, because it was definitely like the main thing that affected my mental health and like relationships, everything.
I feel like your perception on things, like the importance that you give social media is a lot different than what I give it. I think that's because I didn't grow up with it. It wasn't that important when I was younger, whereas you did. And so a part of me, it really upsets me. Like it makes me feel really, you know, like the fact that you go through this and like that's so normal for you and that's what's so normalized. Like one thing we've kind of talked about, same thing as like beauty standards. When you're on social media at such a young age, when you're 11, 12 and you are following, like when I was younger, Instagram models wasn't really a thing. I think there was like one or two people that like were like considered Instagram models, but most people use Instagram were just normal people. But now Instagram models are like the norm on Instagram, and same thing on TikTok. You always see like all these perfect people, seeing that all the time. Like, how do you think that's affected you?
I mean, it affects you in so many ways. Like when you see on just like Instagram, TikTok, not even like Instagram models, you see teenage girls your age who are just like gorgeous, you know? Obviously, it's hard seeing like adults who are like really like pretty models, but when you're seeing like girls your own age that aren't even like models, that are just like your average girl, and you're like, oh my God, like they're so pretty, like that's the type of stuff that blows up on TikTok. So like that's the stuff you're seeing all the time, is like, you know, like stuff like that. That's definitely what like affected me the most. When someone's older than me, I kind of like can use that as like a, oh, well, they're just so much older, like, you know, but when they're your age, it's definitely harder. And that's definitely the type of stuff like I see on TikTok. And that's like what, you know, like your friends and like your relationships, like they're all seeing that too. So it makes you feel like you should also be like that.
You said your relationships. I know you do have a boyfriend. How do you think that just having social media affects that relationship?
I mean, it definitely put like a lot of negativity, I guess you could say, like on a relationship, because, you know, everyone's always going to be like insecure about something, but it just makes it worse when you're with your boyfriend and his explore pages are filled with gorgeous teenage girls with perfect bodies. You're just kind of sitting there like, what the heck? What's wrong with me? You know, like it definitely made me feel more insecure in our relationship, which is like, I would say growing up, I was a pretty confident person. Like, I mean, I had stuff I was insecure about, but I was never like an insecure person, I felt like, until I started dating and I started like seeing all the girls he was following while we were dating, and like, you know, stuff like that, him like liking stuff of whoever, and just like having to compare yourself to something that, you know, it's not even real. It's like a photoshopped picture, like a model who's like 10 years older than you. Like there's no way you can like feel like you beat that. And that was always, for a while when we first started dating, that's how I felt, like I had to be better than like, you know, like some perfect girl on like the internet.
I guess, what are your thoughts on like dating in high school? Like, do you think it's a good thing? Like, would you recommend it, or would you say to like maybe not do it? I don't really know what you think about that.
What do you think are the biggest obstacles?
I would say social media was one of the biggest for me, because there's a fine line between like, oh, like it's just a like, and then like it becoming like more personal than that, you know? And that was definitely like a huge thing in our relationship, like lots of fights over like liking so and so's post, or like following like another like girl that's like not someone you really need to be following. Like that sort of thing was definitely our biggest obstacle. And it's especially hard when you're in high school with a high school boy who's probably not the same as an adult man and not like very mature, and they're gonna do like that sort of thing 99% of the time at that age. You're in high school, and it's like that's just how I think every single boy in my grade follows like accounts like that.
And I feel like how we kind of talked, it's different between like liking pictures, him following his girlfriends, people he knows, as opposed to going on Instagram or TikTok and following a bunch of girls. You know what I mean? Like if you go to his following, he just followed 20 like beautiful girls that all they do is do like dances and like their little outfits. You look at that and you're like, oh, and then you look at yourself and you're like, I don't look like that. You know, it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just how it affects you in a relationship.
Yeah, that definitely was like huge in our relationship, and it affected me a lot mentally. Like that was probably like the lowest point of like my mental health, was like seeing that all the time and just being like, you feel like there's something wrong with you because you don't look like a model, or like because you don't look 10 years older and like have like a perfect body. And it's just crazy to me. Like at the time I was 14 and like I felt like there was something wrong with me because I didn't have like the body of a porn star. And like that shouldn't be something like a 14-year-old girl even like is concerned about. I'm not even like an adult yet and I'm like worried about that. Like that's something I'm like upset about. So that was definitely like for me like super hard. It's worse when like it continuously happens, you know? But like I'm lucky enough, like I think my boyfriend is like a great boyfriend. Obviously, I'm not gonna like bash and say like, oh, like if a guy does this, like he's terrible. Like it's kind of, I hate to say like a given when like you're dating a teenage boy, but it just matters if like they're gonna listen to you and like your feelings about it and like help you through it, and then like, you know, like make the changes they need to for you to feel like good in the relationship, which he definitely like does that. So I say like I consider that all I needed to like feel better about it. But I know some girls whose boyfriends like are not the same. They aren't going to stop following girls and like, you know, that sort of thing, which definitely affects them a lot and would definitely affect me a lot seeing that, because it makes you feel like that's more important than your relationship. That's obviously like hard. Like why can't you just like, why is a like more important than like the year we've been together, you know?
Would you have any advice for someone your age that is really struggling with social media, either personally or in their friendships, their relationships?
I would say like some of the things I did, I guess like in my relationship, there were certain girls like I knew my boyfriend like had, I guess, like a celebrity crush on and stuff, or like specific girls that I knew like he followed a decent amount of girls, but there might have been one or two that was like I knew he like really liked them. I just like, this sounds stupid, I blocked them on everything so that their posts weren't coming up on my feed. Because when you see like whoever it is that like is super pretty, like whatever, popping up on your feed all the time, and you're just like, what the heck, like constantly a reminder.
Yeah, I don't think that's stupid. I think that that's probably a good idea. That's just kind of taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And that's like one of the biggest things that I guess helped me, and making sure like you have people to talk to about it, like your friends, your family, like they're not gonna judge you and stuff. And like talking, if you do have a boyfriend, like talking to them about it, like that helped me a ton, because you realize like they're not important to them, if that makes sense. Like in your head, I guess for me, I overthought it so much, like to the point where I would like make myself crazy trying to think of like why, like all these like complicated answers and like what I have to do to like fix it, or if it's my fault. Like if you genuinely have like conversations with them about it, unless you're dating like an absolute jerk, it should make you feel better. Like for me, it was definitely like something that helps me, just like talking to them about it. If I felt like upset one day about it, again, like it doesn't matter if it's been weeks, months, like you can still talk about it if you're upset about it. And like if you're dating someone that's a good person, like they're gonna help make you feel better and like help you get through it too, like that sort of thing.
I think it's interesting, Sienna, you tell me where you stand on this, but I think for people our age using social media, if I were to be dating someone or talking to someone or whatever, I would be more worried about them using it to like cheat on me or something. But I think it's strange how it's shifted to like you might still be worried about that, but like you it's more pressure on you that you think you're just not good enough because of how they're using it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel like me and like a lot of my friends in relationships feel like, or like at least for me, I did feel like that at the time.
Yeah. And I guess it kind of upsets me because I mean, I personally think like you are gorgeous. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's girls who look at you who are like, oh my gosh, like Reese is so perfect. Like, why can't I look like that? Like, truly, like, I think you are like gorgeous. And so the fact that even you are feeling this way when there's people out there who want to look like you know, and you still feel like you feel like there's always someone better.
Yeah, that's what like I kind of like not think to myself, but like you have to remember like you could be the most like one of the most beautiful girls in the world, and there's still going to be like someone who you're going to think is like better than you, someone who's smarter than you. And like as long as like you're with someone who's like accepting you how you are, like and wouldn't change you. And it's like, I feel like since I've been in a relationship, like it definitely changed the way I thought about a lot of stuff. But now it's like, you have to realize like whoever you're with is with you for a million reasons besides your looks. That shouldn't be like anything that like makes you insecure. Like now I know no matter how I look, like it doesn't matter, and I don't let it like upset me anymore. Like, and it definitely takes a while to like get there, because I still have days where I'm like, oh, like so and so is so much prettier than me, or like, oh, like I remember like he thought this girl was like prettier and like she's so perfect. Like, but you have to remember like those people literally mean like zero to them, and like that your looks aren't like what they're with you for. And like that's what's like important. It shouldn't be like you have to be the prettiest person in the world to feel like good enough.
And I guess kind of like in a world today where looks matter so much, like relationship or not, like it's always important to remember, even though like society may make it seem like looks are everything, they're not. And you need, the most important thing I think about any person is who they are. I would never love or care about someone or be friends with someone because of what they look like. It really is about who that person is. Are they kind? Are they trustworthy? Are they a good friend? Are they a good person? Do they like help me in times of need? Sometimes it's so easy to get so caught up in like all this pressure, but it really, if you think about like your relationships with people, I'm sure everybody feels that way, is that most people don't ever be friends with someone because of what they look like. But okay, I mean, do you have anything else to say or any last words?
I would just say like definitely try and monitor like what you look at on social media, because like comparing yourself does not get you anywhere. It's not going to make anything better. And that's something I had to learn the hard way. And like not just in your relationships, like in anything, like truly just try and like focus on yourself, what you can do to like make yourself better. And like I block anyone that like makes me feel bad. Like any post I see that makes me feel bad, I just like block the account. I don't want to see it, and like I know it's not going to help me, so I get rid of it. Like now, unless it's something that is going to like benefit me, I don't even like bother wasting time like being upset over it or looking at it. And obviously like you're going to have days where like it still is going to like affect you, but just monitor what you see and like who you're following.
Okay, well, thank you, Reese, for coming on. I know you're kind of scared, but I feel like me and Madison can't really give that perspective of what it's like growing up with social media and seeing that all the time. You really do live in a world that I can't speak on firsthand. I can only really say how it's affected me, mainly through how I've seen it affect you. And so I'm glad that you decided to come on and share what you wanted to say. So I just want to say thank you.
I tried to share anything I could think of. I don't know if I was all over the place. I was a little bit nervous, but I hope at least someone could relate to what I was saying. And like, if it helps anybody, that's just good enough for me.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
Bye.
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 Thanks again to Reese for being on our show today. We had a great time talking to you. If you have a story you want to personally share on the show or want us to read on air, find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at JustAPersonPod, or send us an email at justapersonpod@gmail.com. And we'll see you next Monday with another new episode.